And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. You're tuned in to Tapped Out. Hosted by Brendan Tobin and Sean Levine. Only on the BetQL Network.
And welcome in to Tapped Out on the BetQL Network with Brendan Tobin. I am the sports machine, Sean Levine, and I needed a real South Beach journalist to join the show. So let's welcome in Jim Rodriguez, J-Rod, to talk a little boxing with us. He's actually made his way to Las Vegas. Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia. The odds are out. J-Rod, Tank Davis is a pretty heavy favorite right now. BetMGM minus 225. You can get King Rye at plus 200. Does that sound about right to you?
Listen, it's the classic case, and hi, fellas, it's the classic case of you've got ring IQ, ring experience against a guy who is fast as lightning. And it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think the real money to be made, if you go to BetMGM, is if either one of these guys wins by decision. I got it on Monday at 6-1, Tank winning by decision. I think it's gone down to 5-1. You may even get a little less as we get closer to the fight, but that's where the real money is going to be. Listen, I think Tank wins the fight. I think he knocks him out in, the early parts of the second half of the round, maybe rounds 7 through 9. For Ryan to win this fight, he's got to get him early, rounds 1 through 4. So it does make sense.
Yeah, I agree with you. We were looking at that over last week, Jim, and I was like telling Sean, I was like, man, those decision odds just seem crazy just because I feel like you have two guys. Yes, they're knockout artists, but they're not the busiest. Like they usually are looking for that one big shot. And I feel like nerves can be high in a big fight like this. So I could definitely see this going the distance. Like I understand it, but I just feel like the value is so high there for getting to the cards.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing about this is, when you look at their records, they're not used to going the distance. Like how many times have we seen a fight where, a 12-round fight where the over-under is about 9.5 or even 10.5? The over-under on this fight is 7.5. So that tells you they don't expect this thing to go very far. I kind of like the over. I kind of like 7.5. I think the one thing that could really get, you in trouble if you're a Tank fan is Tank is a slow starter. He's like that old car from, that your dad had back in the day. It takes him a while to get going. And I think that's what's going to have Ryan needing to win. Tank will eventually get started, take you into those deep waters and drown you. That's usually been his MO. And I'm curious to see how Ryan reacts to getting hit. I mean, because we know he's got lightning in his hands. And yesterday, on Thursday at the press conference, guys, it was pretty tense. I mean, it was Oscar going at it with Leonard Ellerbe. It was Calvin Ford getting into it with Ryan Garcia. It was Tank Davis telling Ryan, don't bring your wife, don't bring your kid, because I'm going to break your jaw. It was palpable, the tension. These guys were selling the fight pretty well.
J-Rod joining us here on the BetQL Network. Jim Rodriguez back on Tapped Out. Brendan Tobin, and I'm the sports machine, Sean Levine. You're not kidding, man. I mean, that was very intense. They were going at it. Do you believe that Ryan Garcia is as confident as he put off in the press conference?
Listen, I think the one thing that I would never bet against is Joe Goosen. He's got a new trainer. Joe Goosen is in his corner. Joe Goosen was probably the most sane, calm guy in that whole room yesterday, and that's saying something when Joe Goosen is the voice of reason, right? I think they are working on some things. They've got Plan A, Plan B. I think we're going to see a different Ryan Garcia, maybe more of a professional Ryan Garcia, because let's face it, guys. When you see Ryan Garcia, he's kind of a sloppy fighter, not very technical. The footwork, the balance. I think we're going to see a different Ryan Garcia, and I think it's going to be interesting how Tank, survives that in the first 4 or 5 rounds.
What do you expect, Jim, in the idea of, these guys? You mentioned the slow starting from Gervonta. Do you feel like it could be extra slow from both of them because they're going to want to size each other up? A lot of times we get these big headline fights. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's two. The action can be pretty slow because these guys are just trying to feel each other out and know what the distance is, know what the tendencies are. Like, do you expect some of that also in a fight like this?
Listen, I think Ryan's going to do what has gotten him here. He's going to try to go out and knock his head off early. And I don't. If I'm Ryan Garcia, I don't want to go deep into the rounds because this this is essentially a home game for Gervonta Davis. You know what I mean? Even though there is no titles, you know, this is a home game for him, and we'll see how he reacts to that rehydration clause. Because remember, Ryan, and same thing for Gervonta, he can't go up higher than 146 on fight day. They're going to weigh him on fight day, make sure he doesn't get up to 146.
How great is it, J-Rod, that we get both these guys going at it in their prime? I was looking at it. Tank's only 28. King Rye's only 24 years old. We talk about this a lot in boxing, but frankly, we don't get it a lot.
Right, exactly. This has already got fight of the year candidate. And how hyped are we for a fight that there is no title at stake? I mean, Gervonta's the 135 champion, but this fight's at 136. You know, Tank is pretty much at 140 now, so he's coming down. So for there to be no title at stake and to get this kind of a hype, you know, we're talking, they are really expecting getting close to 1 million pay-per-views for this fight.
Do you feel like this will have a domino effect, Jim? Like the idea of we've been, you know, upset that we haven't gotten an Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, or whatever, an undisputed heavyweight championship. If other fighters see these guys at their age going in there, because I honestly think like no one's going to walk out of this with anybody not wanting to watch them fight after this weekend either. I feel like this is only going to be good for their careers. Do you feel like other fighters and other promoters will see this and it will lead to more guys in their prime willing to get in there with each other and not skating around and doing just tune-up fights we don't care about?
I hope so. I don't think so. I mean, I think this fight is the perfect storm because A, there's a lot of money involved. B, there is no titles involved. Everybody's not really fighting in their weight class. So it's kind of a unicorn a little bit. So I think that helps to make a fight like this happen. You know, I certainly hope so. I mean, we when you see the Bernard Hopkins in the world walking around here, the guys, you know, who fought anytime, any place, anywhere, you hope you get to that. But when there is so much money out there, these promoters take care of each other, and I can see why they do it. I certainly hope it opens up the floodgates, but I think you nailed it. I think, you know, right, either one's career isn't over. Either one's career isn't taking a massive hit if they lose this fight. And shoot, we may even get a second fight out of this too. Because there is a rematch, by the way. There is a rematch clause if Ryan wins the fight.
From Las Vegas, Jim Rodriguez joining us here on Tapped Out. You mentioned the promoters. Does anybody like Oscar De La Hoya? I mean, Ellerby was getting at it yesterday. We know that he's been coined Oscar De La Weirdo by Dana White. What happened to that guy? Because as a fighter, he was wildly popular.
Yeah, you know what? And as a promoter, he started off so well. He had such the big names. Of course, he had Canelo and he had all these guys. And Ellerby called him out. He said, listen, that's why we took all your fighters. That's why we've beaten all the fighters that you have right now. Listen, I think Oscar's got his own demons that he fights with on an everyday basis. He's trying to get that together, and he's trying to hang on to his company. And now all of a sudden he's hitched his wagon to Ryan Garcia, and he's going to ride that, you know, and he's got Virgil Ortiz as well. You know, I think the company isn't what it was 3-4 years ago, but the business is cyclical. You know, even look at Mayweather, you know, Mayweather Promotions. It's one of those things where everything goes in circles, a little bit in cycles. But Oscar's just a kooky dude to begin with. But I'll tell you, Oscar stole that press conference yesterday when he came out and he called out Ellerby that there's no confidence. And then what got me is that Ellerby called out that there's a mole in the Ryan Garcia camp that they know everything that Ryan Garcia is doing. So I love it. I mean, they have sold this beautifully.
There's nothing I love more. Like it's the classic Mayweather thing of like, we have a mole in your camp. I love that because you know, for as much as we were exposed to Floyd Mayweather with the 24/7s or the all access, like that was a big thing with Floyd. You never got to see him spar. They always put it behind closed doors. And so I love the fact that they're going to, we have a mole in your camp. We know, like, I think we all know how Ryan tries to win this fight. I don't know what secrets or tidbits they're going to pick up there.
Yeah. Just watch out for the left hand. That's pretty much I could be the mole. I could be telling him that.
What is Jim? What is the thing? There's so many ways I think this fight could go. Would there be something that would just truly shock you? A result that would just be like, nah, I just definitely didn't see that coming from these two guys stepping in there.
I would say two things. I would say if Ryan Garcia actually knocked out Gervonta Davis, I would be shocked by that. I would be shocked by it. And I would also be shocked if Ryan Garcia was knocked down multiple times and came back to win the fight. because you can actually bet that Ryan, how many over-unders Ryan Garcia will be knocked down. You can bet if both fighters will be knocked down. This has the tendency of a good old-fashioned, drunken bar fight with guys, flying and bodies flying left.
How good do you think Tank is, Jim? Because I've been saying for a minute that he's a great fighter, but
I think we're going to see some action. But I would be shocked. Listen, Tank might have gotten exposed a little bit in that Pitbull Cruz fight out in LA. And granted, he was a last-minute replacement, but you just got to wonder how mentally he's involved in these fights, because he's got all the skills. It's just mentally, if he's taking it seriously enough to finish a guy.
Both the promoters agreed on one thing, which was whoever wins this fight becomes the face of boxing, which frankly is hard to do if you're not a heavyweight. Like dudes that are this young and this, I guess, small, it's hard to become the face of boxing. Do you agree that that's what's going to happen?
I think there's a guy named Canelo that's still got 2 or 3 fights left in him. I think the 160, the 147s are still, Virgil Ortiz was supposed to be the face of boxing. Ryan Garcia has still got a lot to prove. I'm not sold on Ryan Garcia yet. I would love to see him win this. Really step. Biggest battles are just getting his own headspace.
J-Rod, appreciate you, brother. Be safe out there in Las Vegas and enjoy the fight, my guy. Oh, and before you get out of here, Dímelo.
Yes, I have a 7 a.m. mass on Sunday, so I'll be going to bed early after the fight, of course.
Be safe, brother. Enjoy it. Thanks for your time.
All right, boys. Be good.